Michael Bell with you again with the CVB challenge. We are looking at Christ verse per book, a key passage from each of the 66 books showing Jesus to be front and center of each of them, hence of the entire Bible. We've reached the book of Daniel, chapter 3, verse 25. But I see 4 men unbound, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And the appearance of the 4th is like a son of the gods. Now, I believe this passage speaks about Christ, particularly as we identify the 4th individual who is in the fiery furnace. Now, what happened with the fiery furnace? Well, here's what happens. Nebuchadnezzar, the great emperor who had conquered 127 provinces, he has a statue built in his image made of gold. He puts it on a giant plane, assembles people, hundreds, thousands, maybe 1 million, who knows how many people. And he tells all the people, when you hear the music played, then all of you will bow down and worship this image of me. I am your emperor. You need to bow down before me. Now, present at that event were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, 3 Hebrew slaves who had been captured and were now servants of the king. And when the music played, they refused. And of course, they're the only ones standing there. Everyone in the plane is worshiping this idol, is showing obeisance to the emperor. And here's 3 people standing up. It would be hard to miss. And so they're hauled before the king, and he says, hey, don't you know I prepared a fiery furnace to kill anyone who disobeys this order? And they said, well, yeah, we know about that. Well, why didn't you bow down? Well, because we only will bow down to the God, the maker of heaven and earth. Well, then I'm going to have to kill you. I'm going to have to throw you into the furnace. And they said, well, so be it. Our God is so powerful that either A, he will let us die in the furnace and take us to be in his presence, and we're not afraid of that. Or B, he's powerful enough to also save us so that physically we don't die and we get to continue living on earth, but we'll see him later at the time of our actual death. Well, Nebuchadnezzar, hearing all this talk, he gets angrier and angrier, and he orders that the furnace be heated up 7 times over. In other words, as hot as it can possibly be heated. He orders the men bound, and strong men are to throw them in the furnace. Well, the furnace is so hot that those strong men die carrying out their duty, and these 3 men are thrown into the fiery furnace. But then Nebuchadnezzar looks, he sees them unbound, walking around, unhurt. In fact, when he lets them out eventually, they don't even smell like smoke. They're completely unharmed by the fire. But most amazingly, there's a 4th person when only 3 had been cast in. Now, I believe this is a Christophany, an appearance of the Son of God prior to his incarnation. He's not showing up in the form of a burning bush. He's not showing up in the form of a human being like he did with Ezekiel, who was the guide who took him to Jerusalem. But he has the appearance, in this case, of a human form, I should say, but like a son of the gods. Again, prefiguring his incarnation. Well, why do I think so? Again, Jesus has said, behold, I am with you to the very end of the age. And as it turns out, Nebuchadnezzar is prefiguring the coming of Antichrist. This is talked about extensively. In particular, look at Revelation chapter 13. And it says very explicitly there that an image will be made of the Antichrist, similar to the image made for Nebuchadnezzar, and all the people of the world will be compelled to worship that image at the pain of death. In other words, if you disobey, you will be killed. Antichrist will kill you, and the false prophet, his right-hand man. And what Jesus is teaching us here is that I will be with you to the very end of the age. So whatever that age looks like for you personally, whether it involves being incarcerated for your faith or martyred for your faith, or persecuted, to flee for your faith, guess who's with you? And here's a very much a worst case scenario, being thrown into a fiery furnace. And guess who is with these who are suffering for their faith in the one true God? But Jesus Christ. Now the irony is this, that Colossians 1 teaches that the only image that can be worshipped, now again, this golden idol cannot be worshipped. The only image that can be worshipped is Jesus Christ, for he is the image of the invisible God. So Colossians 1 teaches us. He's the only physical object, and the Bible teaches very explicitly that he was physical. He had a body, and that when he rose from the dead, he had a body. He is the only one that can be worshipped. Now, the text doesn't say that those men worshipped this fourth man, but if they did, they would not be committing idolatry if, in fact, this fourth is the person of Jesus Christ, who promised us to be with us to the very end, no matter what happens. If we have him in our lives, we can go through the furnace, through the flood, through famine, through the war, whatever may come. Now, if Jesus is on every page of the Bible, shouldn't he be on every page of your life and mine?